In 2012, the world as we knew it ended. A catastrophic event, unlike anything humanity had ever seen before, wiped out civilization as we knew it. The skies turned dark, and the air turned toxic. Buildings crumbled, and the earth shook. The few who survived the initial chaos were left to fend for themselves in a world that had become unrecognizable. Among the survivors was a group of strangers who had banded together in the face of the disaster. They were a diverse group, brought together by a shared will to survive. There was Maria, a former nurse who had lost her family in the chaos, Jack, a tough ex-military man with a heart of gold, Maya, a brilliant scientist who had been working on ways to mitigate climate change, and Leo, a resourceful young man who had grown up in a rural area and knew how to survive off the land. Together, they traveled across the desolate wasteland that was once their home, scavenging for food and supplies, and avoiding the dangers that lurked around every corner. They had each other's backs, but the road ahead was long and treacherous. One day, they stumbled upon an abandoned laboratory. Inside, they found a message scrawled on the walls, written by the scientists who had worked there before the apocalypse. It was a warning, of sorts, a message of hope and despair all rolled into one. According to the message, the apocalypse had been caused by a chain reaction of natural disasters that had been set off by human activity. But the scientists had discovered a way to reverse the damage, to bring back the world as it once was. Maria, Jack, Maya, and Leo were intrigued by the message. They decided to take a chance and try to find the scientists who had written it, hoping that they could help to reverse the damage that had been done. Their journey was long and difficult, but eventually, they found the scientists. They were a group of brilliant minds who had survived the apocalypse by taking refuge underground. They had been working tirelessly to develop a way to reverse the damage that had been done, but they were running out of time. Maria, Jack, Maya, and Leo joined forces with the scientists, working around the clock to develop a plan. They had to act fast, as the damage was irreversible within a matter of months. Together, they built a machine that could purify the air, and they set out to deploy it across the world. As they continued their journey, the group faced even more challenges. They had to cross treacherous terrain, such as rocky mountains and swamps filled with dangerous creatures. They had to constantly watch their backs for raiders who were becoming more desperate for resources. One night, while they were camping, a group of raiders ambushed them. They managed to fight them off, but not without losing one of their own. It was a sobering reminder of the dangers they faced and the harsh reality of life after the apocalypse. They also had to deal with extreme weather conditions, such as scorching heat waves and freezing blizzards. They had to find shelter and resources to survive these conditions, which were becoming more frequent and unpredictable. As they traveled further, they encountered other survivors who were also struggling to survive. Some were friendly and joined their group, while others were hostile and tried to steal their supplies. The group had to navigate through these interactions, trying to keep their supplies and protect themselves without resorting to violence. But they pushed on, driven by the hope that they could bring the world back to life. Finally, after months of hard work, they succeeded. The air cleared, and the skies turned blue once again. Plants began to grow, and animals returned to the world. The survivors emerged from their hiding places, blinking in the sunlight, and marveling at the world that they thought they had lost forever. For Maria, Jack, Maya, and Leo, the journey was over, but the work was just beginning. They had saved the world, but they knew that they had to work hard to keep it alive. They set out to build a new society, one that was based on cooperation and mutual respect, rather than greed and self-interest. They knew that they couldn't go back to the world that they had lost, but they were determined to build a new one, a better one, for themselves and for future generations. As they worked tirelessly to build the new world, they never forgot the lessons that they had learned during their journey. They knew that the world was a fragile place, and that they had to do everything in their power to protect it. They spread their message of cooperation and respect far and wide, inspiring others to join them in their quest to build a better world. They knew that it would not be easy, and that there would be many challenges ahead, but they were determined to succeed. And as they looked out at the beautiful world that they had helped to create, they made a promise to themselves and to each other. They promised to never forget the lessons of the past, to never take the world for granted, and to always do their part to protect and preserve the natural world around them. Their message to future generations was clear: we are all stewards of this beautiful planet, and we must do everything in our power to protect it. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and work together to create a better, more sustainable future for all. Only then can we ensure that our children and grandchildren will inherit a world that is just as beautiful, just as vibrant, and just as full of life as the one that we know today.